Steelers no longer considering Tyreek Hill trade. It did not take long for Tyreek Hill trade rumors, which swirled throughout the early stages of the offseason, to resurface. Shortly after the Dolphins' brutal 33-8 loss to the Colts in Week 1, a report indicated the Chiefs and Steelers were eyeing a potential trade for Miami's talented but mercurial wideout. Pittsburgh has removed itself from the Hill sweepstakes, at least for now. Per Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, the club is concerned that the latest round of domestic violence allegations against Hill, his estranged wife, Keita Vaccaro, has accused Hill of 8 separate violent acts against her, some of which took place while she was pregnant, could result in a suspension. Those allegations surfaced just one day after the Indianapolis loss, and Florio's prior report on the matter implied the Steelers' interest in Hill spawned prior to the accusations. It is therefore no surprise that the team will not entertain a move for the 31-year-old wideout until there is more clarity on this off-field situation. That may well be the case for any club interested in acquiring Hill. However, the trade deadline is not until November 4th. By that point, teams may feel comfortable that Hill will be able to avoid a suspension at least for the remainder of the 2025 season and will thus be amenable to swinging a deal. After all, Hill profiles as an obvious trade candidate. Although he is under contract through 2026, he is due $36 million in total compensation and carries an untenable $51.9 million cap charge next year. Florio confirms Hill will likely be cut by March if he remains with the Finns through the end of the current season. So if the Dolphins, who are currently 0-3 and looking like an obvious seller, are unable to engineer a dramatic turnaround, they will surely consider a trade. Through the first 3 games of the season, Hill has recorded 15 catches for 198 yards and a score. The Steelers apparently have interest in pairing his talents with another trade acquisition, DK Metcalf, and just as Miami's status as sellers or otherwise will be solidified by early November, so too will Pittsburgh's status as legitimate playoff contender or possible also-ran. For weeks, the possibility had Steelers Nation buzzing. Tyreek Hill, the NFL's fastest receiver, streaking down the Heinz Field sideline in black and gold. The mere thought was enough to set talk radio ablaze, light up social media with photoshopped jerseys, and spark arguments at Pittsburgh sports bars about what the team should sacrifice to bring the cheetah north. But just as quickly as the dream began, reality stepped in. According to league insiders, the Pittsburgh Steelers are no longer considering a trade for Hill. Whether it was the cost, the fit, or the philosophy of the franchise, the chapter has closed. The fantasy is over, for now. The rumor that captured a city. The trade rumor began innocently enough, with whispers that the Miami Dolphins, facing looming cap pressures and roster decisions, might be open to fielding calls for Hill. Almost immediately, Pittsburgh's name surfaced as a potential destination. It was an intoxicating idea. Kenny Pickett, still developing but searching for consistency, would suddenly have the league's premier deep threat at his disposal. Pairing Hill with George Pickens promised fireworks. Defensive coordinators would be left gasping, torn between doubling Pickens' size and Hill's speed. Fans pictured defensive backs tripping over themselves as Hill turned Heinz Field into a track meet. The rumor became more than speculation. It became a talking point about Pittsburgh's identity. Would the Steelers, a franchise steeped in tradition and draft-first philosophy, dare to make a bold, win-now gamble? The reasons behind the decision. Now, with the reports confirmed that the Steelers are backing off, the natural question is, why? 1. The price tag. Hill isn't just a superstar. He's an expensive superstar. Miami would have required significant draft capital, likely multiple first-round picks, to even start the conversation. For a team that builds through the draft and prides itself on homegrown talent, giving away the future for one player felt out of step with the Steelers' DNA. 2. The salary cap. Even if Pittsburgh had met Miami's trade demands, fitting Hill's contract into their books would have been another challenge. Hill commands one of the richest receiver deals in the NFL. The Steelers, who are carefully managing extensions for T.J. Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and other core players, could ill afford to handcuff themselves financially. 3. The culture factor. The Steelers are famously conservative when it comes to roster building. Stability, discipline, and the standard is the standard are the mantras Mike Tomlin lives by. Bringing in Hill, a big personality and headline magnet, may have raised concerns about culture fit, even with his game-breaking ability. 4. Confidence in the current roster. Perhaps most importantly, The Steelers believe in what they already have. George Pickens is a budding star. Deontay Johnson remains a reliable route technician. Pat Freiermuth anchors the middle of the field. Adding Hill would have been glamorous, but not necessary in the organization's eyes. Fan reaction, heartbreak, and pragmatism. Across social media, the reaction was immediate. Of course they backed out. The Steelers never take chances anymore, one frustrated fan posted. Another wrote, "Draft picks are great, but they don't win games right now. Tyreek would have changed everything." But not everyone was disappointed. Some applauded the decision, praising the front office for resisting temptation. "We don't need to sell the farm for a receiver," a fan argued on a local radio call-in show. "This team wins with defense and balance. We're not the Rams, mortgaging everything for flash." It's the classic split within Steelers Nation. One side craving bold moves to close the gap with AFC powerhouses like Kansas City and Cincinnati, the other clinging to the steady, disciplined approach that has defined the franchise for decades. What could have been? It's hard not to imagine what might have happened if Pittsburgh had pulled the trigger. Tyreek Hill torching Ravens corners on Sunday Night Football. Mahomes versus Pickett duels suddenly having an added dimension. AFC North matchups turning into shootouts instead of slugfests. Hill's presence alone could have tilted the balance of the division. With defenses forced to account for his speed, Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren might have faced lighter boxes, and Pickens could have seen fewer double teams. The offense could have gone from conservative to explosive overnight. But the cost, future draft classes, salary cap flexibility, and perhaps even culture stability, was deemed too steep. Miami's position. From the Dolphins' perspective, Pittsburgh stepping back may not change much. Miami wasn't desperate to move Hill, they were merely listening. Hill remains a centerpiece of Mike McDaniel's high-octane attack, his chemistry with Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Waddle a cornerstone of their identity. Still, the fact that Pittsburgh explored the option is revealing. The Steelers rarely even entertain blockbuster trades, especially for offensive stars. That they were in the mix at all suggests a subtle shift. The front office knows they are close, and one or two moves could push them into contender territory.